In Stage 1, we're learning to be investigators and research a historical site in our community. So, we're heading on an adventure to have a look at Trial Bay Gaol. Some of you may have heard of Bay Gaol before, and others may have been there. But to start with, we want to look at why is Trial Bay significant? This means, why is it so important? Let's see if we can become investigators and find out more about how it all began. This sign tells us that if we have a look back in time, we would find that the sea was the main highway between Sydney and Brisbane, and that Trial Bay itself was about halfway between these two cities. After some famous shipwrecks known as Shipwreck Trial, people needed a solution, and they came up with the idea to build a breakwall. In 1877, Trial Bay Gaol was built to be the home of the prisoners who would construct the jail. Unfortunately, storms and gale-force winds meant that the construction of the wall was slow, and it was only 1/7 of the length that it was supposed to be. Because of this, and the invention of sturdier ships in 1903, 10 years later they cancelled the building of the breakwall and Trial Bay Gaol was closed. But this wasn't the end of the prison life. 1915 to 1918 marked the period of World War I, and during this time the jail was reopened and used as a German internment camp. The camp held 500 prisoners who were of German descent. This included Australian-born men who had fathers or grandfathers who had been born overseas in Germany or Austria. Let's take a look back at some old photos to see what the internment camp looked like. In 1918, as the end of the war came, the camp was closed and prisoners were sent to Sydney so that they could be deported to Germany. But why has this prison survived? 4 years after the war, the building was emptied and its furniture was sold in an auction. The jail was left as a ruin for years, and then it became a popular place for holidaymakers. In 1946, it was declared a public reserve, and community groups worked to fix it up and rebuild the jail. Today, National Parks and Wildlife manage the jail. The jail has a significance to the ancestors of German internees that were kept there in World War I, and is also an important heritage site for Indigenous people. Question 3. Why is it important to preserve and look after the jail? This is your task. We're going to be going on a day excursion to Trial Bay Gaol to have a look at the prison, and you'll be able to interview the National Parks officers about why they think it's important to preserve and look after the jail. You will use this and your own opinions to write a speech about why it's important to preserve historical sites.